Hello, my name is Rashard Snellings, and I am with the South Fulton Coalition. Tonight, we will be hosting Nicole Horn and Representative Bodie Williams as they speak to the City of South Fulton and the South Fulton Coalition regarding the office that they are running for, which is the commissioner's race. The mission of the South Fulton Coalition, the mission of the South Fulton Coalition is to implement action programs for the continued improvement, accountability, and integrity of the City of South Fulton government and its elected officials. We focus in the areas to educate, disseminate information, and engage City of South Fulton residents, to advocate on behalf of City of South Fulton residents by interacting with our leadership to ensure community-driven input into decision-making and to provide financial support to causes that promote our missions and benefit the community. Again, my name is Rashard Snellings, and I will be your co-moderator. I will be assisting your moderator, Mr. Jareem Sharp. And at this time, I would like to turn it over to Mr. Sharp. Mr. Sharp, you have the floor. Thank you.
Hey, y'all. Can y'all hear me here, or do I have to yell?
No, it's still difficult to hear you.
Give me a second. I'm going to yell for now. I'm going to work out my phone, and give me a second. I think I can do this.
All right, so while he is getting his audio straightened out, we can start off with opening remarks. And Mr. Bodie, can you hear me? Doesn't look like his audio is on. So what we'll do is we'll start with you, Ms. Horn. You have 3 minutes for opening remarks. If you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us about your campaign and what your platform is. Thank you. You have the floor. 3 minutes.
Mr. Snellings, will you wave at me when I've got a minute?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Thank y'all for having me. It's an honor to be able to speak to the City of South Fulton. My name is Nicole Horn, and I always like to talk a little bit about my background. So I am the daughter of a nurse. My mom was a working mom just like myself, and my dad was a heavy equipment operator, lifetime union member. And that's a fancy way of saying he built roads for a living. And here's why this matters. Because till I was 16, so 30 plus years ago, we lived in Connecticut, and my father was laid off almost every year, usually right around Christmas time, because once the temperatures drop, the asphalt won't set, so you can't build roads. So my dad applied for unemployment benefits. He quickly received those benefits, and we never worried about having a roof over our head or food on our table. Y'all, that's not what happened here in Georgia. We are 2 years into this pandemic, and people are still waiting 4 to 6 months on average to receive unemployment benefits that they have earned. And that is because the current labor commissioner has slashed staffing. So nobody answers when you call because no one's there. The processes are broken. 80% of people are initially turned down for unemployment, and we run on antiquated technology that requires a mainframe. I'm ready to tackle the Department of Labor and to tackle first and foremost unemployment benefits and open up that department, put in place mobile career centers, and open up the doors of our career centers, not keep bank hours. I am running on a mantra of people, processes, and technology. Let's staff up the people, let's fix the processes, and let's implement new technology. Now, let me tell you a little bit about who I am. So my background is I'm an entrepreneur. For 15 years, I owned a company that worked with universities across the country, and we would help universities select and then in many cases build programs for adult students. So I've literally helped thousands of Georgians move into better jobs. And here's why this is relevant. I want to focus on better pathways to better jobs through apprenticeship programs. We can build those with unions and with businesses for tech, healthcare, and skilled labor. I'm also a working mom, so I care about childcare. childcare has gone from $6,000 a year to $14,000 a year. It's the biggest barrier parents are facing to returning to work fully. And I want to work with our prison system to help returning citizens find jobs. I look forward to continuing this conversation with y'all, and I will wrap up based on the signals from Mr. Snelling. So thank y'all so much.
Thank you so much. I forgot to tell you that if I put a 1 up like this, that just means you have 1 minute remaining. The way we used to do it, I would just verbally say it, but it throws the candidates off. So we decided to start using the hand gesture. So thank you so much.
Well, this is an ongoing conversation, so I'm sure we'll be able to get into other things. But thank y'all so much.
Oh, thank you so much. Now, Mr. Bodie, are you able to hear me?
I can hear you. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing fine. My apologies. Nicole might have said we're coming from an event right now in North Fulton, but I'm here and I'm en route. I'm not driving, but I'm in the car right now.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, we're doing opening introductions. So if you want, you can do your opening introduction now. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. Yes, my name is State Representative William Bodie, and it's been my honor to not only be a native of Atlanta, but I grew up in South Fulton. I went to Banneker High School, graduated in 1995, and went to Valdosta State University. Then I went to Mercer Law. Then I came back, been practicing law, criminal defense and personal injury law since 2005. I was elected to the Georgia House of Representatives in 2016, sworn in 2017 for House District 62. That encompasses portions of South Fulton, East Point, where I live, College Park, Union City, the new city of South Fulton, and also Douglas County and parts of the city of Douglasville. I'm running to be your next Georgia Labor Commissioner. I've been endorsed by over 200 Democrats, including Leader Stacey Abrams, Governor Roy Barnes, the last Democrat Labor Commissioner, Michael Thurman, and also Congressman Hank Johnson. I passed over 27 bills as a Democrat, including the Ahmaud Arbery HB 479 Citizens Arrest Repeal legislation. I was a co-sponsor, co-author of that legislation that was in direct response to the Ahmaud Arbery murder from February 2020. I'm running to be Georgia Labor Commissioner because I want to put Georgia workers first. Even during the pandemic, I helped citizens and workers across the state to get their answers to the questions that they had about the unemployment benefits. Also, I created helped create the Coalition of South Metro elected officials during the pandemic to help out with food security, unemployment issues, also trying to get PPE to citizens in South Fulton who need it, and also helping during the 2020 primary as well. So I'm running to be your next Georgia Labor Commissioner because I'm going to put workers first. I'm going to staff up the Department of Labor. I'm going to also create more career centers and also going to have a call center. So when you call the Georgia Department of Labor, you'll get a live human being on the telephone. Also, I'm going to work with our labor unions, which organized labor is endorsing my campaign, the Georgia AFL-CIO, to create more apprenticeship opportunities so more Georgia can have living wage paying jobs and they don't have to go from job 1 to job 2 to make ends meet. So I'm here tonight representing William Bodie, and I'm asking your vote to be your next Georgia Labor Commissioner tomorrow or on Tuesday on Election Day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, Mr. Sharp, is your audio back working? Mr. Sharp?
I believe my audio for right now is not working the best, so I'm gonna maybe let you have to take this one for now.
Mr. Sharp, can I make a suggestion? Try muting your computer and so that you can't hear anything coming out of your computer when you mute yourself on the computer, and then try on your phone. That might help.
All right. So thank you both for opening remarks. Now, I see that we have people joining the call now. So while we wait for questions, I just want to remind the audience, please use the reactions option. Raise your hand if you would like to ask a question. Once I see your hand, I will acknowledge you and unmute your microphone. In the meantime, I'm just going to ask the first question. So a lot of our residents don't really understand the importance of the Labor Commission. So can both of you just give your definition as to why this race is so important? And we'll start with you, Ms. Horn.
Yeah, thanks so much for asking. I know it's really exciting to go and vote for Stacy and Reverend Warnock, but this is a position that impacts people's daily lives. So right now, the job of the Labor Commissioner is to make sure unemployment is paid. So if you lose your job through no fault of your own, there is a safety net that exists that you can apply for and should receive so that it keeps a roof over your head and food on the table. The other thing that the Labor Commissioner does is currently the Labor Commissioner oversees the distribution of visas. So agriculture is our number one part of our economy. And we have a lot of documented immigrants who come to Georgia to work, particularly in our ag industry. It's the job of the department to not only distribute visas, but also to make sure that documented immigrants who are coming in are being treated fairly and paid fairly. This department could be more. This department could be one that creates apprenticeship programs, that creates pathways to jobs. This department could be the place and should be the place that if you face discrimination, if you're a woman and you know that a man is being paid a significant higher wage for the same job, or you are being paid a significantly less wage because of the color of your skin, you need a place to call. And it should be the Department of Labor. So I hope people go out and vote and get behind this, not just tomorrow and Tuesday, but get out and vote in November, because there's a vision for something bigger and better, but it's only going to happen if people go and vote.
So much for that. Mr. Bodie, would you like to answer that question?
Yes. I would say I kind of break it down into two parts, similar to some of the things that Mr. Colhorn was saying, but I look at it as twofold, or actually threefold. The chief responsibility under the Georgia Constitution is that, and also federal regulations, that the Labor Commission is supposed to make sure any Georgia worker that has filed for unemployment benefit get their benefits in a prompt and timely manner if they have been approved. And we saw that that did not happen during the COVID-19 pandemic, not here in the state of Georgia. Now when you're having African Americans denied unemployment benefits at a higher rate than Caucasian workers, not when, no matter the race of the worker, could not get anyone on the phone from the Department of Labor. No live representatives were being very responsive under this administration. That is one of the chief goals, to make sure that the unemployment system in the state of Georgia is ran properly and timely. Also, workforce development opportunities. The one thing that the Labor Department can do is to make sure Georgians have livable wage paying job opportunities by making partnerships with organized labor, with worker organizations such as Georgia Stand Up, Construction Ready, Goodwill of North Georgia, the Urban League of Greater Atlanta, and also our technical colleges here in the state. That is one of the biggest job responsibilities of the Department of Labor and the Labor Commissioner, is to make sure that these job opportunities are readily available and that Georgia workers know where to go to find out about the opportunities. One thing about this Department of Labor, the technology.
Brother, we have 30 seconds remaining.
Yes, it is not, the website is not user friendly. And so Georgia workers don't know how to find the opportunities that are out there, because the ones that are posted on the website are old postings anyway. So that's some of the things that the Labor Commissioner does here in the state of Georgia and also across the country and other states.
Thank you so much. I would like to turn it over to our first question. It comes from Ms. Deborah Nelson. Ms. Nelson, you have the floor. Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon. I have read both of the candidates' positions regarding looking into providing benefits for gig workers. However, as an actress and a member of the Screen Actors Guild and AFTRA, we're not really gig workers. Members of the union are actually paid by paymasters. So we get a regular W-2, it's just that every production is a different paymaster, et cetera. So over my career and all of our careers here, we've never been able to get unemployment, except this time when the union lobbied in Washington to get unemployment benefits during the pandemic. So normally in this right to work state, you have non-union actors who can get unemployment because they're 1099 workers, but the over 3,000 members that we now have in Georgia, when I started on the board here, we had close to 900 combined. Now we're looking at over 3,000 people who are members, but when you finish and that's a wrap, you have no unemployment benefits until your next show or commercial or what have you. So I'd like to see what your positions are, where you think you can have an impact on all of us, because we're at the base of billions of dollars coming into Georgia, and we cannot benefit from unemployment, even though that money is coming into the state. So I'd like to hear kind of where you can see us being eligible for that unemployment going forward now that the pandemic portion is over. Thank you.
Ms. Nelson, is that question for both candidates?
Yes. I'd like to hear how both would plan to approach that so that our members can be eligible for unemployment going forward.
So much. Ms. Harn?
Thank you so much for asking that, Ms. Nelson. And I think that's something we need to tackle because Georgia is now the Hollywood of the South. And so we have more and more of film industry. Actually, what's crazy is that over the next 10 years, half of the fastest growing jobs are in film and television. So there's a broader group who are going to be impacted by exactly what you're talking about. Part of this is we need to make sure that this system that is decades old is flexing and keeping up with the changes in the demands of our workforce. So to your point, we need to make sure that people that particularly are film and actors can receive unemployment benefits. And I think we can learn from, I have the luxury of being and pride of being endorsed by SEIU. We've got these great unions like IATSE, like SAG. We can talk with them and get guidance on how to best craft that. But in addition to including you talking about gig workers, we also need to talk about right now, the amount of money that we get each week is nothing. It's like $365 a week. It's a pittance. That's not even going to pay for rent for most of the state of Georgia. So there are some holistic changes that we need to tackle that includes both gig workers, that honors the fact that we are the Hollywood of the South. And if we want to keep people here, keep people engaged, we need to make it possible so that they do that. I'm not going to talk off the top of my head. What I would want to do is go and talk with the experts, the union experts like IATSE, to make sure that we craft that. And we can steal ideas. There are already states doing this well, like California. I'm all about R&D, rip off and duplicate. So thank you so much for asking that question, Ms. Nelson. And it is absolutely holistic changes to our unemployment, the way we pay it, the way people qualify are part of my vision for this department. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would like to turn it over to Representative Bodie. You have the floor. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you so much. I would say that question is a great question. It's one that I've been asked and one I've been doing some research on. During the COVID-19 pandemic, I think about 143,000 gig workers who lost their job to no fault at all because of the pandemic could not get traditional unemployment benefits. So they were able to file and get PUA benefits under the Federal CARES Act. But that was a special scenario. And so since that time, I spoke with current employees of the Department of Labor, other state experts or other, employment lawyers that deal in this space. And a couple different options I'm thinking about. You know, one way, and I don't know the collective bargaining agreement for your particular union. I'm really happy to hear that you're a member of organized labor, but the collective bargaining agreement would have to be, I would think, in my humble opinion, that the studio that they're contracted with, your union, they will have to pay into the unemployment trust. That might have to be some type of agreement between the studio and the union through the collective bargaining agreement. Or another option I've been told that work was kind of being developed, if gig workers decide to, or if a law is passed where gig workers can pay into the unemployment trust themselves, and maybe the state match whatever they put into the unemployment trust. So if they lose their job to no fault of their own, if they can't get traditional unemployment benefit because they don't have a traditional employer paying into the unemployment trust on their behalf, they will have those funds there. And a third scenario is that I have spoke with a lot of school bus drivers who are considered seasonal employees. And what we could get back to when CEO Michael Thurman was the labor commissioner, he classified them in a way, bus drivers and other school employees, where they could get unemployment benefits during the summer months. And the school board took on the responsibility of paying into the unemployment trust so they could draw down their unemployment benefits during the summer months. So I think it has to be labor at the table, and I want to bring labor to the table, bring employees to the table, employers to the table, and other experts in labor law to figure out that scenario that you have addressed. But it is an issue, and especially in this gig economy, we have to figure out a way to protect our gig workers when they lose their jobs to no fault of their own with unemployment benefits.
Thank you so much. Our next question comes from Drew Demand. Mr. Demand, you have the floor.
Hey, good evening, y'all. Thank you so much for coming to speak with our community. I have a question about warehouse workers. As you may know, South Fulton is in a part of the metro area that has witnessed a massive growth of warehousing and shipping that serves the metro area, and I assume all of North Georgia to some extent. But it's a big, big business. And a lot of times in communities that receive these warehouses or have them foisted upon them, the warehouses are touted as providing jobs. And we know at the same time that a lot of those jobs are very poorly paid. And sometimes, oftentimes, the working conditions are pretty brutal, sometimes freezing and sometimes very hot. And people work very long shifts. I'm thinking specifically of Amazon, but there are many other distributing warehouses throughout South Fulton. And I would like to see those workers be organized. So I wonder, that's just one place in Georgia where y'all's purview falls, but who has something good to say about organizing warehouse workers?
And was that question for both candidates?
I will open that up to either one of you.
All right, Ms. Horn, I'll start with you.
Great. Mr. Demand, thank you so much for that question. Like I said earlier, I am the child of a lifetime union member, and I am very pro-union and pro-labor. It's why I have the support of SEIU. It's why I've gotten the support of the sheet metal workers and the iron workers. We need to strengthen our ability to unionize. And one thing that has surprised me is that we aren't hearing this. Democrats aren't talking enough about ending our right to work state status, which makes it harder for our unions to grow. I am going to be an advocate for ending right to work. I am going to work shoulder to shoulder with our unions, because we've seen across the country where you have states with the strongest union membership, you have families with higher average household earnings. So we've got to push for that. And an advocacy of unions and educating workers about the benefits of unions is part of that. The one easy way that the Department of Labor can help strengthen unions is making sure that people are put into their apprenticeship programs. I mean, these unions have fantastic apprenticeship programs. They're developing new apprenticeship programs. Get people into those apprenticeship programs and your union numbers grow. We need to start a dialogue that educates Georgia workers about the benefits of union membership. And I'm ready to be out front on that conversation, because we're still, as a Southern state, like I grew up where unions were great. And I moved south and unions are bad. That's a matter of education. Unions are fantastic. Unions are going to protect your job. Unions are going to give you a better salary. Unions are going to have your back. We need to educate them, and I'm excited to be part of that. And I'm excited about the work that I've done thus far. I mean, unions have taken me under their wing and said, Nicole, we're also going to educate you as a leader. So it's a great opportunity. Thank you so much for asking. And I would end by saying, I do think we're at a tipping point. We're seeing more and more people, and my children are much more pro-union. We're seeing a tipping point, and I think we just need a force to continue to push behind it. Thank you.
So much. Representative Bodie, would you like to answer that question for Mr. DeMille? Representative Bodie?
I'm sorry. Yes, I would. I didn't realize I was muted. Yeah, I would say, being that I'm endorsed by the Georgia AFL-CIO, which is organized labor in the state of Georgia, I would love for Amazon and other fulfillment centers and distribution centers and warehouses to be organized. I'm also endorsed by RW, the retail workers, and they're currently trying to organize the Amazon warehouse over in one of the Amazon warehouses over in Alabama. And I think it's important to organize our warehouses, because my father was a warehouse worker. He worked for theirs, retailers. I know most of you all in this call may be from Atlanta or the metro area, but theirs went out of business back in the 90s. And it was a labor shop. And it was bought out, theirs warehouse or retail was bought out by Marshall. And when he lost his job, to no fault of his own, because his warehouse was bought out, my dad had to receive unemployment benefits. And he had to receive unemployment benefits for about 5 weeks. And I remember him being on the call on Sunday night and basically requalifying for unemployment benefits. And so I just felt like when he went to his next job at another warehouse, a distribution center, it wasn't a labor shop. And he didn't have all the same rights and he didn't have all the same protections that he did when he worked on a labor shop. And so just for that alone, I've been a stark supporter of organized labor, because I saw the difference between a labor shop and a non-labor shop, and how management was trying to take advantage of my father and the other workers that work with them by giving them turkeys at Thanksgiving instead of giving them higher wages, instead of giving them better working conditions. My dad used to have to go to work with a skull cap on and gloves and overalls in the wintertime, because the warehouse
you have 30 seconds remaining.
And in the summertime, it didn't have an AC and air conditioning. So I'm very passionate about that. So yes, to answer your question, sir, I absolutely believe that our warehouse workers should have organized labor protected. Thank you.
So much. Now, I don't see any hands raised. So I just want to remind the audience, if you'd like to ask a question to Ms. Horn or Representative Williams, please use the reactions option and raise your hand. While we wait for questions from the audience, Ron, do we have any questions in the chat or any questions you would like to ask?
There are none in the chat, but what I would like to know from both
Ron, I apologize. I accidentally
I'm
muted
sorry.
you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was on mute.
Yeah.
My question is for both candidates, if you're elected as Labor Commissioner, what will your first 90 days look like?
I'll start with you, Ms. Horn.
That's a great question. My first 90 days are going to be focused on our safety net. I am watching evictions skyrocket across the state of Georgia. I'm actually working with the NCNW out of DeKalb to help people receive rental assistance. And it's because, and I've heard this, I'm sure Representative Bodie can talk about this as well. I've gotten those phone calls from people who've said, I lost my job. I fell behind on my rent. I'm back to work. But because I fell behind on my rent, I'm being evicted. So our first priority needs to be on making sure our safety net is working. So that's why I'm going in with the mantra of people, processes, and technology. We need to staff up so that people are reaching out and helping Georgians move through their unemployment process. We've got a huge backlog of appeals right now where people are literally waiting a year to have their appeal heard. That's unacceptable. I need to fix the processes because 80% of people who apply are initially turned down. Twice as many Black Georgians as white Georgians were turned down, even though about the same number of Black and white Georgians applied. That's a broken process. And we have access to federal grants to improve the technology. We need to do that. So that is where the first 90 days, we need to make sure that people are safe, that they're in their homes, and then we can transition to helping them move into their next career and job. But I want to make sure when parents leave and move to different apartments because they're being evicted, that has an impact on their kids, who have an impact on their learning. Like, it all trickles down. So we need to stabilize first and then jump into better pathways to better jobs, which I'll be working on pretty quickly. I'm not going to wait a full 90 days. That's something we can lift off with immediately with our unions because they have existing programs. But so thank you so much for asking that. It's a great question.
So I would say my first 90 days as Labor Commissioner, one of the first things I want to do is to regain the trust of all Georgians in the Department of Labor and just create a more accessible Department of Labor as well. I'm going to completely open up the doors. We're going to have the Department of Labor and the Labor Career Centers, which serve as satellite offices, to be truly one-stop shops again, where you can find out about workforce development opportunities and answer any questions with your unemployment UI benefits or claims. But I also want to create a call center with the Georgia Department of Labor. Again, like when you call the Department of Labor, you can get a live human being on the telephone. That's first and foremost, because then we can start to triage the questions and concerns and inquiries that citizens and workers who lost their job to no fault of their own have, and create also answer their questions about job opportunities as well. And also we're going to create a task force to go back and look at any unemployment claim or appeal that was filed during the pandemic that still has not been resolved. If the appeal is still open, we're going to look at that case, and if that claim, and if that Georgia worker is due money that they should have got during the pandemic under the current Republican administration under Mark Butler, we're going to try to get them the money that they were supposed to get that they never got, that they were approved for. So we're going to go through each one of those claims that are still open and outstanding in each appeal and try to get those appeals scheduled within the next 30 to 60 days to have those cases heard. So those Georgia workers that were due their unemployment benefits receive them. Also, we're going to look at the Department of Labor structure and infrastructure as well. We're going to make sure that we are properly staffed. We're going to start to build from the ground up. That's very important. But in the first 90 days, we also have to go before the Georgia General Assembly and have a balanced budget that is going to make sure that the Department of Labor is adequately funded, but also to ask for more money in the budget with the Georgia General Assembly to staff up the Department of Labor, and also to start to modernize the Department of Labor as well. And that's something that the next Labor Commissioner is going to have to do within the next probably 2 or 3 weeks of their administration. So that's something that I want to make sure that I do as the next Labor Commissioner. And I'm also going to create a Labor Commissioner infrastructure that's going to have deputy commissioners that's assigned to the various regions throughout the state of Georgia. So I will have eyes and ears in every part of Georgia: coastal Georgia, North Georgia, South Georgia, Southwest Georgia, Southeast Georgia, Metro, and Middle Georgia as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Ron Booth, you have the floor.
Thank you, Rashard, and thank you both for those excellent answers. My next question, and I know that you've already talked about your parents and their impact or influence on some of the things that you're doing now, which is greatly appreciated. And one of the things that we like is to get to know the candidate. So are there other personal items about yourself that you'd like to share with the voting public that would let us get to know you just a little bit better?
Arn, would you like to go first?
Sure. So a few things about me. I have 2 kids. My daughter is 13. She's sure she's going on 25. And she keeps me young at heart. My son is 16. He just got his driver's license, so I hope you are all safe on the streets. I'm keeping I cringe a little bit as he leaves, but he seems like a decent driver. I've been married to my husband, John, who I met in college for 20 years this October. And he was my business partner. He's an amazing, wonderful man. My first job was at Waffle House. I was 16. I babysat all the way up before then. I graduated from Emory with honors and promptly waited tables again. And I share that because I know the importance of paid internships, and that's something that I also want to include in the Department of Labor, because it was a paid internship that helped me move from waiting tables into my first career. So that's a little bit about my background and who I am. I hope that's helpful. Thank you.
Representative Bodie, you have the floor.
For me, I guess I was born at Grady Memorial Hospital in Atlanta. Like I stated earlier, I grew up in South Fulton, and I'm a product of South Fulton and Southwest Atlanta. Before my family moved to South Fulton, when I was in 5th grade, we lived in Southwest Atlanta, in Adamsville, Collier Heights area. So I grew up in Atlanta, born and raised. I'm a Georgia boy, thick and through. I love Georgia. I love being from Georgia, and I just care about my state, and I care about where I grew up, and I want to see positive change for, you know, my state. I'm also a newlywed. I was just talking to my wife, and actually she reminded me that our anniversary is on Saturday. So we've been married for a year now, and we basically have been running a campaign every day of our marriage. But we've been enjoying getting on the road together. We've been to all the 4 corners of the state, from Albany, Georgia, to Boston, Georgia, to Savannah, Georgia, to Fort Valley, you name it in the state of Georgia, Rome, we've been there. So we have enjoyed our time together in our marriage in this first year. We have enjoyed campaigning together on the road together. So that's just a little bit about me.
So much. I'd like to turn it back over to Ron Booth. It looks like we have a question in the chat.
Yes, this next question is from the chat. That's from Love Living Levy. And she wants to know, and I believe this is related to the first 90 days question earlier. She wants to know, what is the clear comprehensive plan? Please, with which laws, grants, and organizations do you plan to use, and how is it funded?
Carmen? Fine.
I'm starting us off again. I can do that.
Yes.
Thank you for that question. There are actually, so most of the money we get to run our department comes from the federal government, but we want to get additional money from the General Assembly. So that's where a lot of the money is going to come from. When I talked about mobile career centers, and when I talked about upgrading technology, there are federal grants available for both of those. Actually, and I was so excited to read this because I've been talking about mobile career centers so we can go to where unemployment and underemployment in Georgia is highest for a year now. And last month I read that Kentucky got a federal grant to start their own mobile career center. So I'm like, these grants are here. We can do this. I also want to create regional labor boards, and these regional labor boards will include our union members, will include our nonprofits, will include activist communities and companies. I think there's so much nonprofit great programs throughout the state of Georgia. And what I don't want to do is leave opportunities on the table. So I'm going to be using these labor boards to build bridges between our department and nonprofits and our unions to create more opportunities. So the short answer to your question is there are federal grants available that we will be able to tap into. Actually, Mark Butler qualified for a federal grant to upgrade the technology in 2012. It was called the Scooby grant, and he just didn't use it. He dropped out in 2019. So there are federal grants available, and working shoulder to shoulder with our unions and nonprofits to make sure that opportunities aren't stagnant, but are built on one another and connected with the government will help strengthen the work that our nonprofits and unions are doing and have a bigger and more deep reach within our community. And I hope that answers your question, as well as I've already created relationships with state legislators. It's the benefit of running for a year and a half. So I have no problem going into our General Assembly and asking for more dollars and giving a compelling reason why we need to do that. I've got a vision for a bigger, better Department of Labor, and it's a department that is going to strengthen communities and strengthen our workforce. So it's going to be a combination of ways to go. So I hope that answers it. Thank you so much.
You for that. Yes, sir. Mr. Bovey. I'm sorry, Representative Bovey. You have the floor.
Yes, sir. Well, first thing I'm gonna do is, and it's kind of in line with your question, is to fight for the Labor Commission to have the right again to administer the federal workforce development funds that the state of Georgia gets from the U.S. Department of Labor and Congress. The issue is that it was a bill, HB 1331, that passed this past session, where the Republicans in the House submitted legislation, one of the governor's floor leader, to basically take away the responsibility and the power of the Labor Commissioner to be able to disperse those funds, and gave the responsibility completely over to the Technical College System of Georgia. So, and also in that particular legislation, they tried to take away the power of the Labor Commissioner to operate the career centers across the state of Georgia. And the reason why is because they know it's probably going to be another Democratic labor commission in office next January, and they're trying to dilute the powers of the labor commissioner to be able to use those powers to get more living wage paying jobs for workers across the state. The Republicans want to weaken the Department of Labor, and they want to basically take money and resources away from the Department of Labor. They took 17 career counselors away from the Department of Labor and transferred them over to the Technical College System of Georgia. I have nothing against the Technical College System of Georgia. I think they do a great job, but workforce development should start with the Georgia Department of Labor Commission. So I'm gonna fight and lobby the General Assembly and our next Democratic governor, Governor Abrams, to bring back the powers of the Department of Labor that were diluted by the Republicans. Now, as stated before, some of the workforce development money, some of the programs are funded through federal funds, but other programs are funded through state funds. But most of the money comes from federal grants. One of the grants, Tiger grants, would involve at least $11 million, $12 million to the state of Georgia to upgrade antiquated technology that is utilized for the unemployment insurance program. That platform is so antiquated that the federal government was giving money to the state of Georgia to upgrade that technology and also
30
to
seconds
provide,
remaining.
and to provide better security for that particular platform. So I will make sure that when these grants come to the state of Georgia, we take full advantage of those grants to make sure those federal grant dollars are being utilized to help Georgia workers get living wage paying jobs and opportunity and retrain opportunity.
Okay, thank you both. I want to remind the audience that if you have a question, please go ahead and type it into the chat if you don't want to ask it on your mic. But if you do, just raise your electronic hand. And I also, we promised to keep this to an hour, so that gives us about 13 minutes left. So I wanted to know if the candidates had a hard stop at 8:45, but if you get additional questions, would you be able to stay a little bit past that?
I don't have a hard
Nicole?
stop. I don't have a hard stop. So my family knows that I have to be flexible.
That's good to know. Okay, Representative Bodie. Do you have a hard stop at 8:45?
Yes, sir. I unfortunately I do have another engagement, but I want to make sure that I spoke to the South Fulton Coalition because this is very important to me because I live in South Fulton. I grew up in South Fulton, but I do have a hard stop at 8:45.
Okay, thank you very much. And we'll be respectful of your time. And we'll give you each 3 minutes to make your closing remarks. So that gives us about 7 minutes, I guess. So my next question is, for the good of the public, can you explain to us what a labor commissioner does on a day-to-day basis? And we've been starting with Ms. Horn, so Representative Bodie, we'll start with you on that question first this time.
Well, I would say that the labor commissioner on a day-to-day basis job should entail making sure you go into the office and make sure that the career centers are being ran properly across the state, to make sure you have adequate staff to do that, and make sure that you're also moving across the state. One thing that I was always told, and I've been told by supporters of the last Democratic Labor Commissioner, Michael Thurman, he moved across the state of Georgia. He will be at a processing plant in North Georgia on a Tuesday, and then he'll be at a farm in South Georgia, Southwest Georgia on Wednesday. So I think the great thing about the Department of Labor that it is very administrative in nature, but it's a lot of federal regulations, but you have the autonomy to move across the state of Georgia to make sure that those workforce development opportunities are being handled properly. But I would say also the administrative duties are very important as well. One of the major responsibilities of the Department of Labor, the Labor Commission, is make sure you regulate child labor, and we talked about the entertainment industry and movie industry being a big industry here in the state of Georgia, but the Department of Labor is make sure that child labor laws are being adhered to. So
30
outside of
seconds.
child labor laws, you have other responsibilities administratively as well.
Okay, thank you for that. Ms. Horn, your thoughts on that question?
Well, I think there are a couple of things that an effective labor commissioner is going to be doing. And that is, I mean, it's part of being an effective leader in a department. And I'm going to talk about when you get to a day-to-day point, because the first thing an effective leader will be doing is going to be putting together a high impact strategy. That strategy is going to have measurements that you are trying to meet. As an example, right now, again, 80% of people are turned down for unemployment. We need to dramatically lower that number. And then once you have those measurements identified, then you identify, okay, what are the activities that we're going to do to move the needle? So the leader is making sure, is watching the numbers on a regular basis and supporting the team to make sure that the activities can be executed, that will move the needle, that will impact the state. The second thing that an effective labor commissioner is going to do is create partnerships across the state of Georgia. Again, I come back to, we have a lot of amazing talent in this state, both people working within state government, but also people working with unions, people working with nonprofits. An effective leader, the labor commissioner, is the ambassador of our workforce. And in order to make sure that not only we're hitting numbers that we feel like we should be monitoring, that we should be changing, we need to also make sure we're watching, are these the right numbers to be tracking? And you get an understanding of that when you are out in the community having conversations, when you're building your partnerships with unions, nonprofits, and businesses, when you are talking with businesses and our universities, our HBCUs, our public, our private nonprofit schools, on what can they build to help our adult students? Because we can create better careers for more Georgians, but the only way that we can create those better careers and better career paths is if we're talking holistically about opportunities that we have to make sure that we are meeting the needs that we see. I mean, Deborah, you were a great example of this when you raised your hand and said, I'm not a gig worker, I'm a W-2 worker. Here's a unique situation that I face. Those kind of conversations are the kind of conversations that DOL constantly needs to be happening so we can stay on the cutting edge of correct support for Georgia workers. So thanks so much for asking that.
Okay, thank you both for those questions. And we only have about technically 1 minute left before we start closing remarks. But there was another question from Drew DeMann in the chat. And he wants to know whether or not you have a strategy for empowering and enfranchising migrant agricultural laborers across the state. So we'll start with you, Ms. Horn, and then we'll go to you, Mr. Bodie. But please take only about 30 seconds.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for asking that. First of all, we need to strengthen our central monitoring at the Department of Labor that monitors where our workers are going. Right now, they call ahead to the farms before they come to them. That's crap. We need to get rid of that. And in the spirit of 30 seconds, phones. I want every phone number of any documented immigrant who's coming in so that we can be talking on a regular basis. If you don't have a phone, I'm going to give you a burner phone. You will have a contact and we will be contacting you on a regular basis to make sure that there's constant two-way communication so we can protect our documented workers. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Bodie, 30 seconds.
So I would say that I'm already working with UFW, United Farm Workers, to try to address the issue of Operation Blue Onion, which is just a horrible situation where one of the unemployment department employees were indicted for basically selling migrant workers off to slave labor. So I'm going to work with elected officials to make sure we have stronger guidelines in place and that we work with the U.S. Department of Labor and their enforcement on the wage and hour division to make sure we're protecting our migrant workers in the state of Georgia while working with organized labor and leaders at both the federal and state level to make sure that happens, that these workers are protected because they are here lawfully and they're here to help our economy. So I'm gonna be there on the front lines to protect them.
Okay, thank you. And let's go ahead and take 2.5 minutes each for closing remarks. So we'll start with you again, Ms. Horn.
Thanks so much. Thank you for putting this together and for inviting the both of us to come and speak. It was really, it was wonderful to be here, to have a chance to answer any questions that you might have and address some of the concerns that are happening in the city of South Fulton. Again, my name is Nicole Horn, and I am running on a vision for what the Department of Labor not only can be, but should be. This should be a department that advocates for Georgia workers. We need to put in place investigative teams that when you face discrimination, misclassification, wage theft, you shouldn't have to go hire an attorney. You should be able to come to the Department of Labor and we will be there to fight for you. I'm excited to build that infrastructure to make that happen. I'm also ready to fix our very broken unemployment insurance system. We can do that. We can make change with people, processes, and better technology. There's federal dollars available to do that, and I will make that happen. I am also passionate about underemployment in the state of Georgia. Y'all, underemployment is 9%. Unless you're a Black or Latino woman, then it's 15%. If you're a Black man, it's 18%. I don't want to talk about our low unemployment without us addressing and really tackling our high underemployment. That's why apprenticeship programs are going to make a difference, both working with unions on skilled labor apprenticeship programs, but also creating programs to help people who want to move into fields of technology, of marketing, of healthcare. We can do more, we can do better. I'm also excited to fight to help our returning citizens, both getting training within the prison system, but also helping people leaving the system find jobs. And finally, childcare. Y'all, this is the #1 barrier for working parents to go back to work full time, because it's gone from $6,000 a year to $14,000 a year. We need to address this and knock down that barrier, and doing so will bring $1.7 billion into our economy. We can fund this through $110 million in the sales tax that we'll be bringing in. I've got a vision for a better, stronger Department of Labor that's going to fight for Georgia workers, and I hope I earned your vote tonight. I'll put my contact information in the chat, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Representative Bodie, your closing remarks.
Thank you so much. I'm running to be your next Georgia Labor Commissioner because I got to put Georgia workers first. As I stated earlier, we're going to modernize the Department of Labor by creating a well-based system. We're going to open the doors to the Department of Labor and make the Department of Labor accessible again. We're going to regain the trust of the public here in the state of Georgia and citizens to let you know that their Department of Labor is there for them in their time of need. It's going to be a safety net. I have the servant leadership tenacity. I have the experience as a state legislator in getting things done. I passed over 27 bills. I got money in the budget. I've been able to get bills passed to help my region. I actually got a bill to upgrade the water infrastructure for East Point, College Park, and Hateville, as that was an all Democratic bill. So I'm saying that because I know how to get things done. I have a vision for the Department of Labor. But also, I've already sat down with national consultants that's going to help me to modernize the Department of Labor. I'm going to reach out to the labor unions who I already have an amazing relationship with. They're endorsing my campaign. So I know how to get things done at the Gold Dome, and that's going to help me to be able to fully fund the Department of Labor because it hasn't been funded properly. That's going to help me to get the staff that I need and also implement management programs like CEO Michael Thurman had when he was the labor commissioner, so we can hire for, or we can not hire, but train from within to have our employees feel good about working at the Department of Labor again. Right now, workers have reached out to me with the Department of Labor, said, William Butler, we need you. We're praying for you because we know you can change the morale at the Department of Labor. I know how to get it done. I have the sweat equity. I'm going to also advocate the Georgia 074 pro-worker legislation. I just passed a bill to basically create a cause of action for any Georgia worker that works for a city or a county that if they are retaliated against for filing unemployment, filing a sexual harassment claim, they will have a legal cause of action. That's HB 1390. I actually passed another bill, was the lead sponsor, HB 91, to increase the pay of all public defenders in the state of Georgia. Because I was a public defender for Fulton County from 2005 to 2008, and I wasn't getting paid a living wage. So that's going to help on the criminal justice reform side, because everyone needs a competent lawyer, and it's going to help living wages for those public defenders. I am the only labor commissioner that's actually been in inside of a prison. I've been in USP Atlanta. I've been inside the Fulton County Jail. I know what it's going to take to get returning citizens back in the workforce, and I know what it's going to take to help get our returning veterans back into civilian life, and also to help our seniors and disabled workers to get living wage paying jobs as well. I'm already partnering with the labor unions. I'm already working on expanding youth bill, which is a building trade pre-apprenticeship program for East Point. I'm trying to locate 41 high schoolers that can get into this apprenticeship program because labor is looking for it. I am the complete candidate. I had over 184,000 votes in the primary. I had the most votes of any Democratic candidate for labor commissioner. I'm asking all of you all to go back to the polls to vote for me again. I'm trusted by leading Democrats across the state, including leader Stacey Abrams, and also a lot of the elected officials in South Fulton and in Southwest Atlanta, because they know my work ethic and they know my sweat equity, and they know I'm going to work hard for not only the state of Georgia, but I'm going to work hard for the most disenfranchised communities as well. Thank you for having me. And you can go to www.voteforga for more information and vote for me tomorrow on Tuesday on election day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, before we get ready to close, prior to this meeting, I actually checked my mail and I got both of your postcards in the mail. So I just wanted to let you know, I don't know if you can see them, but I got your postcards in the mail. So, and I've got both of them today. So thank you so much for these. And I just, on behalf of the South Fulton Coalition, I wanted to tell you thank you for joining us. Thank you for participating. I know this was done the last minute and it was short notice, but I appreciate all the flexibility. So best of luck to both of you. And if you want to learn more about the South Fulton Coalition, join or donate, please visit the South Fulton Coalition's website at southfultoncoalition.com. Thank you so much. And again, best of luck to both of you guys.
Thank you, South Fulton Coalition, for having us tonight. Thank you for all your work.
Thank you so much. It was really wonderful to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And we will send a copy of this video to you. It's going to be a YouTube format, and we will post it on our website and on various social media outlets to let the public see. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.